Welcome to another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, we'll be doing draft profiles on both Kai Sotto and Kofi Cockburn. These are two prospects that their fan bases are very passionate about. We'll also be talking about what's going on with Lonzo Ball's knee, all that and more in today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net has you covered with this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. We are a member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. That's Pat, the designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central. And today, we're jumping right in with more draft player profiles. And first up, we got Kai Sotto. Now, this is a foreign prospect from the Philippines. He played in the NBL over in Australia. He didn't play a lot of minutes. So there's a very small sample size in terms of his game. If you do look him up, his highlights, of course, highlights make everyone look great. Now, he is a more modern-day big. He does have legit size and length. But as far as that skill set, it's more of the modern skill set where he has some shooting. He's more athletic, I think, than the other prospect we're going to talk about. To me,
throwing shade at him already.
To me, even though I'm throwing a little shade at the next prospect, I would just say this: like, Kai Sotto is expected to be in the second round. Reportedly, he's already got a promise to be drafted in the second round. There's reports that promise may be coming from the Lakers, which I read today, saying that they don't even have a second round pick, but they may be acquiring a second round pick, which that would be the most Lakers things to do, to make a promise to a player before they even have a pick. But Pat, I'm going to turn it over to you, man. You had a video that popped off with 44,000 views on Kai Sotto, this draft prospect, man. How do you feel about it?
Kai's an interesting one. He's going to be a development piece no matter what. I think him going second round makes a lot of sense to me, because he's going to be a piece that does have potential to become something better than what you saw over the NBL. He does also have, like, this isn't new, right? Like, the professional game isn't new for him. So he does have that as an advantage in his back pocket. The NBL is like the third best league now outside of the NBA.
I think so. That sounds about right.
Third or second, one of them. It's up there. It's tougher competition. Listen, we played Australia in the national finals for the FIFA World Cup and all that stuff. So you already know what kind of game they're bringing. The interesting thing about Kai Sotto that I think a lot of people are, at least in my comments, the thing that I saw was he didn't get enough time to play. He only played 15 minutes a game. His averages work out to 15 minutes. And my biggest concern with him is his rebounding. He's 7'3", 230 pounds. And I get the NBL, there's no three in the key, so the guys can kind of just stand down there and push you out all day. But in his time in the NBL, 15 out of his 23 games, he played 15 or more minutes. Only in 3 of those games did he end up with 6 or more rebounds. Sorry, he's 7'3". That's a little bit concerning for me. I like him as a second round pick, though. I think he'll be a good development piece. I think he'll be a piece that I don't think he's a piece that fits with the Bulls right now. I don't. Me and you kind of talked about if he were to end up falling closer to draft time, maybe towards the end of the draft, maybe you could snag him there and actually use him as a, hey, go sit down in the Windy City Bulls and develop for a little bit of time. But I just don't see him as a fit on this team right now.
Yeah, and that's where my biggest, I wouldn't necessarily say issues, but my biggest, hey, slow down, let's be realistic with this, is that he's not a ready-to-go prospect at all. So, and, shout out to the people from the Philippines, because they support him, and that's huge. But he's not ready to go. He's not ready to go right now. Looking at his body, looking at his frame, he's going to absolutely, especially some lower body weight he's going to need to put on. I would say this: he's even less ready for the physicality of the NBA than Marko Simonovic was. And we saw what happened to Marko Simonovic. Yeah. And I don't even mean that as a slight to how he's going to potentially grow and develop, because I'll tell you what, he does have a solid skill set. the one thing is that it's basketball IQ with Kai. Like some
Yeah.
people have you believe in some of the things that I've seen that he's like this athletic monster. He's not. He's not at all. He's not an athletic monster at all. He's just somebody who uses his length and athleticism very well. The fact of the matter is he has over a 9-foot standing reach, meaning he can almost dunk the basketball without jumping. So of course on his blocks, the little bit of it's not like he doesn't get any lift, but the lift that he gets is maximized by the fact that he is very intelligent in how he uses his length and that wingspan. He's very intelligent in the way that he does use that. I would like to see a little bit more aggressive rebounding. Like to your point, the number of rebounds, considering his height and his length, to me, what that says, and in the tape that I've seen, is that he's not very strong down in the middle. Because at that length, if you have enough strength, you should be getting a way higher percentage of the rebounds that you do get. Again, that's just looking at and honestly reviewing his game. The potential, I can absolutely see the potential in. And I can see why some people would look at him and say, hey, he could possibly long-term definitely be one of those players that you get in the second round and we look back in a redraft 5-6 years later and we're like, how did he not at least go late first round, if not higher than that? You can absolutely see that with him, but he's just not ready to go right now. And as we've said before, we try to be very level-headed here. How much is AK and Eversley going to put into potential if they're trying to compete right now and take advantage of DeMar and Vooch being at where they are? That's the biggest question here, because there are so many other prospects. And the thing is, it's not even a conversation of being drafted at the 18th. We're only covering this here just to be fair. There is not a single chance that they draft him at the 18th. I will say this. If the Chicago Bulls were to draft Kai Sotto at the 18th, that would mean that AK sees generational talent in Kai Sotto. Yeah. And he would have to see something that just is not in the tape that I've seen.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, maybe he does. Maybe I think the Bulls are working him out more as a formality, more as, hey, if this guy falls and we can find a way to get back in the draft and maybe pick up like I think that's a situation. A Kai Sotto's a situation where you feel like, hey, we can trade this pick and get a couple of really nice pieces in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. Are there any teams that have multiple second round picks this year?
Yeah, there are a few, I believe. Keep going on. I'll get back to you on that. Keep going with you.
But I'll say this. I don't know if I would say Kai Sotto's doesn't have good movement. I do think he's a very rim runner kind of player. He's definitely got go up and get it ability. He already played in the drop defense, understands kind of how that works. But even with all that, right? Like, again, we go back to the minutes per game average versus how many minutes he actually played in the game. Even on the defensive side, 0.8 blocks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know guys that come off the bench and average a block a game in the NBA. And that's kind of what you'd be looking for him. Now, granted, there's a lot that you see in his game that you feel like could develop into something at the next level. And the one thing that I've heard a lot is that he just didn't get an opportunity to showcase it at the NBL.
This is true. Yeah.
But
it seems like they were protecting him because they knew he was going to the NBA. It seems like they were trying to protect him a little bit there.
It could have been. It could have been that, absolutely. And maybe he just didn't get an opportunity to showcase it. I mean, I think he only attempted like 4-5 shots a game.
Yeah. So
he really didn't do a ton. And maybe that is something that does come out in the draft, or does come out post-draft, where he's able to really showcase his talent. And maybe that's why the Bulls went to see him and brought him in for a workout, right? Because, hey, maybe the Bulls believe the same thing. He didn't get to showcase his talent over in the NBL. We've seen this guy do better in high school and kind of coming up. I want to see where he's actually at and how he's actually playing. So that could be a scenario very much the same as well. And I don't know. Like you said, if they take him at 18, he's got to be a generational guy.
Yeah.
AK's got to feel like, no, we can't let this guy pass. Yeah. But if they could find him in the second round, I wouldn't be mad at him in the second round. It's just got to be, because he's going around, what, 38, right? 38,
no,
40-ish?
He's slated to be undrafted in most mocks right now.
Mm.
There's a couple that have him around the mid-30s and late 40s, but in most mocks, he's slated to be undrafted. Now, to catch up on the last one before we go in this first segment, Orlando, Indiana, Minnesota, Sacramento, and New Orleans all have multiple second-round picks. And those are all picks, teams I believe that have pretty high first round. So you may be able to get an extra second rounder out of one of those teams, especially looking at Orlando. They have 2 second-round picks. They also have 2 first-round picks in this draft, I believe. No, that's next year. They have 2 first-round picks. So they may very well be willing to give up. Indiana has the 60th pick. If somebody that you see that's slated to go undrafted, you just want to make sure you get, I'm sure they can buy that 60th pick if they
and that's really what it is, right? Like you're finally doing. We might finally be on the buyer's end of one of these second round picks instead of Garpax just selling them every other year.
Oh my God. Man. But next up, we're going to talk about another prospect that Bulls fans have been talking a lot about, and that's Kofi Cockburn. But first, we're going to talk to you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL hockey conference finals, Major League Baseball, and of course, the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting and esports, and even more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Pat. Kofi Cockburn. Now, this is a prospect that we really don't agree on, right? We don't. But I think that we both, because we're both very level-headed people, I think even in our conversation, we understand where the other's coming from. We just don't. Understanding and agreeing are 2 very different things. And we don't agree on this topic at all. So this should be a fun conversation for the fans to listen to. Kofi Cockburn, I'm going to let you go ahead and have this one first, brother. How do you feel about Kofi Cockburn?
I think Kofi's going to be a nice mid-level player in the NBA. I don't think that Kofi's going to come in and be dominant. I don't think that Kofi's going to come in and be the next Shaq, right? But I mean, you're talking about a 7-footer who's 285, at least listed at 285 right now, who improved his points per game, improved on rebounds per game, and his field goal percentage, which did take more of a dip, but he also took more shots because his running mate was playing for the Chicago Bulls. But it dipped down from 65% to 59% at the college level. For me, I don't think I think there's a lot of flaws in Kofi's game. I think his footwork isn't great. His back to the basket game isn't great. And he basically has no jump shot whatsoever. No jump shot whatsoever. But I think as a guy that's able to come in, especially as a rookie, come in off of the bench, definitely has the ability right now to give you 10 rebounds in the NBA. Definitely has the ability to, I mean, at this point, right, 285, he'd be like the 3rd heaviest player in the league right now.
In the draft combine, he measured at 293 pounds. So that's directly off. Yeah.
He would literally be the heaviest player in the NBA right now, I think.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. That's wild.
Because Zion was 2nd when he was playing. Let's see who's the heaviest player. Boban might actually still be the heaviest player in the NBA.
Shout out to Boban, by the way. And he's hilarious. That commercial with him and Trae Young.
Oh,
my God.
Yeah.
Man, that commercial is hilarious.
Bro, it does crack me up. I don't even know who Buddy is. Oh, Simbalar. Okay.
I guess he definitely hasn't gotten any minutes.
That's an old one. That's all time. That's all time. But no, I'm like, he was 325 pounds. Good Lord. But no, he'll come in already being one of the bigger guys in the NBA. Won't be able to stick with a lot of the athletic centers in this league, I don't think. He'll struggle against guys that move quicker, like a Jaren Jackson Jr. or even a Clint Capella. I think he would struggle to keep up with. But like I said, a bench big that can get me 10 rebounds. I mean, that's all we begged Tony Bradley to be last year. It was like, bro, just help. Like, you don't got to be the reason, just help. And I think in year 1 you could see him do that, and maybe 7 points a game. But we'll see. You know what I'm saying? Here's the fun part, right? Why don't you think Kofi will be good in the NBA?
There's 3 reasons why I think Kofi Cockburn won't be a good player in the NBA. It's IQ. His basketball IQ is not that high at all. He's very much a player that has been physically taller and stronger than everybody his whole life. And that's to his coach's detriment, right? Yeah. Because they should have been sitting down teaching him the X's and O's. He's not a very high IQ basketball player. I worry about the athleticism, because the NBA is moving from more of a size game to a skill game. Size is always needed to a degree. But one thing that we've seen is that even players that during the regular season can't help, Steven Adams, who picked up our center in Tony Bradley,
Steven
was
Adams got
almost
good feet.
was unplayable in some series.
Yeah.
And Kofi Cockburn isn't nearly the player that Steven Adams is. So those are the I named two of them. And then the third one that I worry about is that while a player that has primarily gotten by on their strength, and he has worldly strength, right? Worldly strength, is that a game that's moving away from that. That's moving away from just the big, strong guys. There's not a lot of guys in the NBA right now who just get by on being big and strong. I wonder if, even if he does have an impact right away, let's say you're right, and he does come in as a rookie, he's able to get you 10 rebounds. He's not going to be able to run up and down the floor at that point. He's not a good passer. If he had, that's the thing. And I think I just worked this through talking with you. If Kofi had elite passing to go with everything else, I don't think I'd have the issues that I have with him.
I think the biggest issue to me is that his back to the basket game really doesn't exist. His back to the basket game is, I'm stronger than you and I can push through you. Yeah. Now, granted, he would be legitimately the second. You said 293?
293 in the draft.
He would be the second heaviest player in the NBA behind Taco Falls, who also gets no minutes. So that don't matter. 2 is Boban. 3 is Nurkic. Nurkic is 290 pounds.
Nurkic moves. I would never thought that Nurkic was that way.
Never would have expected to see his name on
here,
bro.
Here's a question. That's a better comp for him. How many minutes does Boban average over the course of the NBA season?
Let's see. Which one is he? Is he Marjanovic? 5.8.
See, and that's the thing that worries me. The one thing that I will say to him, though, in positive, because I don't want to make it all negative, is that Kofi understands his. I'm going to read a direct quote from him, and if this shows a level of awareness that I think a lot of players don't have. He says, I think it's very, talking about his game and him having a bit of an old style NBA game. This was his direct quote. I think it's very unique. Like a lot of people tell me back then, if it was the 90s, I'd be drafted probably top 10. When I look at it now, the game has changed, but it hasn't changed that much. There are still big men that need to rebound, that need to play defense, be vocal, and give their guards, put their guards in better position to score. Yeah. That shows a level of awareness that I would say right now, hats off to, because Kofi he does know his limitations, and he doesn't try to shoot from 5 and 10 feet
from anywhere,
because he knows, hey, that's not my game. And maybe that level of awareness, listen, all I'll say is this, is that if I had to bet on it, it's not that I'm completely crapping on the guy, but if I had to bet on Kofi carving out a solid role for himself in the NBA, I'm not putting higher than a 25% chance on it, bro. That's just me.
I would look at Kofi. To me, the flaws in his game is that he's that big and his back to the basket game, like I said, isn't great. If he can develop that, like, I guess, who's he really been working with on his back to the basket game coming up? You know what I'm saying? Like, but if he can develop that, I think that he can be a nice piece that you use. I don't think he'll ever be a guy that develops a legitimate jump shot, but I think that he can be a nice piece that you use to bring in it. But you'll have to have a team around him that just kind of fits with, okay, we've also got a giant in the middle. I think basically what happens with the Milwaukee Bucks.
I was just about to say that. If he goes to the Milwaukee Bucks, is that the best opportunity? If they assign somebody, hey, we're not going to do nothing but teach you post moves for the whole first year you're here in training camp and everything. Yeah. Do you think that's the perfect situation for Kofi Cockburn?
I think there are 2 situations that I feel work well for Kofi. I think Milwaukee's one, and it probably is the perfect one because all you got is a bunch of dudes down there doing post moves. And I actually think Chicago's 2 because you're going to put him on the bench back with the guy that actually knows how to get the most out of his game, and Ayo Dosunmu. Now, that doesn't mean I would take him at 18 by any means. I don't think Kofi has enough of a game. Kofi's just a monster. He really is. Like, he's a freak of nature. But I don't think that there's anything about his game that says he's more talented than Walker Kessler, or definitely not more talented than EJ Liddell. He's, if we being honest, right, like, he's probably got less skill set than Kai Sotto.
Yeah.
He's
I agree with
probably
that.
got less of a skill set than Kai Sotto, but at 285, right? How much of a skill set do you need if you can learn some post moves that can just get you to the bucket where, hey, I'm big, I can jump up and I can shake the rim as I dunk it. I think that's going to be Kofi's biggest, the thing that keeps him in the NBA and will speak to him having an actual long career. But if he can't do that, I don't see a lot of other teams at that work. Maybe the Spurs, because you could probably have him down there off of Jakob Poeltl because Poeltl moves so well and has so many other things. But no matter what, he's gonna have to be paired with a power forward or another big that
you would have to play
has
4 out.
everything.
You would have to play 4 out. Everybody
Yeah.
else on that floor would literally have to be shooters to a degree and just say, hey, we don't have to worry about offensive rebounding because Kofi got us.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think
one thing too,
I think he could be that. I don't know if he projects as a starter though. Not for a
well,
while.
yeah. Not I would say almost never with that, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But one thing that I will say too is another thing as a positive for Kofi, no major injury concerns. And as somebody that size, that height, that weight,
yeah,
to have no major injury concerns, pretty good.
Yeah. No. I mean, what's he? I don't know if he can go back to Illinois because I don't know if he's going to add anything to his game.
He
would
have made some money this season too with the likenesses because they're bringing NCAA games back and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he would have made some money. So
where do you think he ends up going if he stays? Has he committed to the draft?
He's committed.
Yet?
He's committed to the draft.
So where do you think he's going to go in the draft?
Bro, honestly, I still think he's not going to be drafted. I do not see him being drafted.
Really?
I do not see Kofi Cockburn being drafted.
I feel like he'll go in the 40s.
43 mock drafts, brother. One has Kofi Cockburn. Now, the mock drafts aren't everything, but I use the reason why I look at so many mock drafts is because to me, I don't hold them as a end all be all, but I think they give you a good range for what the NBA is kind of expecting.
Yeah.
43 mock drafts. He's projected to be drafted in one of them.
Yeah, I think they've got him ranked right now as the 10th best center. Mm-hmm. He's behind some names that I ain't gonna lie to you. I haven't even looked at. Ebo Dianco Badaji.
Somebody, it's funny. Somebody literally mentioned in the comments of one of my videos today that I need to look at that guy.
7-1 out of Senegal.
Never heard of.
Never even heard of him, bro.
Never heard of him before today. Now I hear from him twice in one day.
Kai Sotto is ranked as the 16th best big out of there. So do with that what you will.
Okay. But let us know down below, guys. What do you think about either one of these prospects? Kai Sotto, Kofi Cockburn. Who do you think has the highest NBA potential? Let us know about that down below. You guys have heard from us and what we think about it, and we want to hear from you guys.
For sure. Oh yeah, that's me, ain't it? Hey, guys. Hey, look, it's been a long day, brother. We have an important favor to ask you guys, man, before we get into this final topic where we are going to break down some comments about Lonzo Ball possibly not being there for the beginning of next season. The beginning of next season. This is crazy. But before we do that, we have an important favor to ask you guys. Put together a little survey so that we can learn more about listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. It's your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about Locked On Podcasts. Again, keep it respectful. We will fry you. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take you very long. And everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards to take our audience survey. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. We appreciate y'all for helping us out.
Absolutely. And speaking of coming out, before we get to the next topic, brother, we dropped the ball. We said that after we passed 5,000 subscribers, we'll be giving away a jersey. We are now at almost 5,200 subscribers and have not given away that jersey yet. So be on the lookout. By the end of this week, we'll have details and we'll get it together on how to give away that jersey. But let's go ahead and get into the next topic. All right, so Darnell Melberry over at The Athletic had an article speculating. And one of the things that I always like to do, because I'm just anal about things like that, is that this was a completely speculative piece. You have now seen other outlets take the headlines and run with that as if that was a report
Right.
that Darnell Mayberry gave, which it was not. It was just basically Darnell saying, basically, what the heck do the Bulls do if Lonzo is not ready to go by the start of next season? Which the longer that we go without hearing anything, I'm not going to lie to you, Pat, I get more and more worried about it myself. It's been 4.5 months on an injury that he was originally reported to be back in 4 to 6 weeks. That's scary, brother. How do you feel about
it? It's concerning, right? Because like I said over in my video on the Breeze, like you have to at this point start to have real concerns that is this going to be another surgery? We heard that he was going to go back and rehab with LeVar and do a lot of water therapy and stuff like that. But you're at the point now, right, where you're talking about him possibly going back in, and it can't be ruled out at this point because nothing he's doing is moving him in the right direction, possibly having to have a third surgery, which at this point, you're probably talking about a meniscus removal. I would think if you're going in the third time, there's got to be some meat there to reattach.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're going in there to fix something else, there's some meat that's probably missing at this point. That is a 3-month surgery. We could be legit. Like I get it's speculative, but it's a real speculation at this point that you could be talking about him missing the beginning of next season. Now, on top of that, right, the blows lessen because Ayo Dosunmu has really shown that he can be a starting point guard in this NBA, and he's shown that his game is translating quicker than a lot of us thought. But you're still that's still like, is this going to become something that's chronic? Is this something that, he might not be there at the beginning of the season, which it doesn't really matter as long as he's there at the end of the season. But can I count on him to be there at the end of the season if this becomes a chronic knee issue?
Well, the thing is that keep in mind the MCL reattachments are always something that are like the removal for initially are always better. It's that the long term, like in the career,
he's going to have
you run the risk of arthritis and things like that. But the removal, at least initially, now we still don't know if it's even the MCL though, if it's still just that bone bruise.
Yeah,
because if it's not the MCL that's given the issue, then we're okay. Then like there's no surgery for a bone bruise, at least to my knowledge.
Right.
So we're really in the dark. And I'm going to read the direct quote from Darnell Mayberry as well from his article. It says, "It's been 4.5 months since Ball was sidelined with a left injury that eventually turned into meniscus surgery. He's still not right. Whether he will be in time for the season opener becomes more of a concern by the week. If Ball must undergo a second surgery, the time crunch intensifies. There's been no indication for Ball's camp that a second procedure is in the plan, but if it can't be ruled out, if Ball's knee remains unresponsive." Listen, that's as pretty straightforward as you can get.
Yeah.
Right? There's been nothing yet, but I mean, you have to look at like at some point, just saying, "Hey, I can't rep up my something needs to be done at that point." Like you have to be able to work out, and I'm hoping that we all of a sudden get an update, and it'll be like AK and Eversley. If they know everything right now, play it close to the vest. After Zach LaVine signs, all of a sudden we do get the word, oh, by the way, Lonzo Ball will be back at the United States. And then every possible panic goes away. But with so much uncertainty right now, man, I mean, all I can say is prayers up to Lonzo Ball. I know that it has to be frustrating for him. Keep in mind that keep trying, because they were probably ready to shut him down once it seemed like he couldn't go. Him being reevaluated even before the playoffs again was because he was pushing to try to be ready to go back for this team by the playoffs. It didn't happen. But Lonzo, I know this has to be frustrating for him, man. I know it does.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a frustrating situation all the way around because you thought that this was going to be the fresh start for him, and this was his opportunity, his first real opportunity. I mean, the Lakers was kind of a real opportunity, and then LeBron traded him.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Pelicans, right, when Stan Van got there, they kind of took the ball out of his hand. This was his opportunity to show that, no, I can be the driver of a franchise. I can be the guy that gets all of these other guys jump started. I can be the guy that sets everybody up and be consistent and have my best chance to do that and showcase that in the playoffs. He didn't get to do that this season. I don't I don't know if I'm to the point where I feel like he's not going to be able to do that next season.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, I mean, listen, do you feel better about, okay, let him get 100% healthy no matter what it is because we've got Io? Or do you feel like, yeah, we've got Io, but at this point, right, like if Io starts to develop the way we think he is, maybe Lonzo comes back and he does go to the bench.
I don't think that there's any chance of Lonzo Ball not being our starting point guard if he's healthy. I just don't. Not in Io's year 2. Now I'll say this: if Io comes, like we know Io's a demon when it comes to working out. If Io comes into training camp and looks like the next coming of, I don't even want to name a specific point guard, and they look at Lonzo and say, hey, Lonzo's not ready to go. Io, you're up. We're calling your number. You're the starter, and Io shines at the beginning of the season. Every game Lonzo doesn't play and Io plays well, it becomes more a reality. I don't think that is going to happen, but I would be crazy to say that I don't think that it becomes more of a chance every step that we go and Lonzo isn't ready. So
it's also a chemistry issue. You know what I'm saying? If the Bulls are rolling with Io as the starting point guard to start the season, why would I just be like, hey, Io, appreciate you for starting the season and playing the best basketball we've ever seen you play. All right, go sit on the bench now. And Lonzo, you got your job back. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, like that's actually becoming, I don't know if it's a concern, right? Like it's a good problem to have. Hey, we have 2 really good point guards, but you would feel bad in that sense for Lonzo because like you felt like this was going to be his big start to
and it was.
This is where you take off.
Be clear. It was.
Yeah, it was.
He looked great. He was
balling.
And he was balling. And that time where DeMar and Zach were out and he averaged 18, 8, and 6, listen, that man was balling.
Yeah.
So he had a great start. But yeah, I don't see it happening that Lonzo loses his starting position, but I'm not saying that it's not a possibility. I wouldn't say that at all. So
man, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, brother, especially seeing as how we've heard absolutely nothing.
That's the scariest thing, right?
Yeah.
It's because like for example, with Zach's injury, Zach, he went out with COVID. We didn't hear anything from him for a couple of weeks. We heard that he may get a surgery. He came on, did his post-game presser a couple of days after everyone else, went away again. Next thing we know, he popped up on TMZ next day. Hey, he got his surgery. He's good.
Now we got to sign him, but
now we got to sign him. But yeah, like so. The fact that this has been going on so long without a real true update, other than our update being there is no updates, man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
What's the update? No updates. Thanks for the update, man, Alec. Appreciate that.
Man, listen, what a time we live in. You had to call it right now, based off nothing but what we know. Our starting point guard to start the season, Io DeSumo or Lonzo Ball?
Io DeSumo. I think there'll be another surgery.
Okay.
If he can't ramp up, then it's literally like, can you run? No. I think Io's going to start the season for us because I think Lonzo's going to end up having another surgery.
All right, that's fair. I'm still in the Lonzo Ball camp as of right now, but listen, the closer we're beginning of June now, end of July, if we don't have any updates, I'm completely switched. I'm flip-flopping. Y'all ain't even got to get in the comments and be like, oh, Haize is flip. Yes, I'm flip-flopping. Absolutely. If by the end of July there's no update, I am completely flip-flopping. Io will be our starting point guard going into the next season. So
100%, bro. 100%.
Yeah.
Hey, man, that's a good 30 for him. That's a good 30 for him.
Yeah, for sure.
It worked out.
Yeah. Hey, listen, and Io's agent, I'm telling you right now, not to say that they wish bad on anybody, because it's still having Lonzo Ball available is the best for the whatever, whether it's off the bench or anything. But Io agent is sitting here like, hey, man, listen. You're a restricted free agent at the end of the season, man. Listen, we both about to get paid. I just want my 10%.
It's gonna. I'm gonna be real with you, right? Like, depending on what he does, it's gonna be tough because I think he's gonna command some serious cash from other teams.
The most that I read, and I'm not a capologist, and I'm sure some people are gonna correct me, but based off the percentage increase and everything, the most Io DeSumo can get paid in that first contract, at least in that first year, is 12.5.
That's still, 12.5.
That's a little bit over mid-level money. So
yeah, you talk about probably a 4-year. That's actually not bad. Probably a 4-year deal.
So you're looking at about 4 years, $60 million, right?
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
I'm keeping him around for that.
Yeah, definitely. Kobe got to
keeping
go. And then what the Bulls can easily do is that they can just not use their mid-level exception that next year. That offsets that completely. So
yeah, 100%. Make it even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Let's hope Lonzo's healthy, but let's also hope Io's worth $12.5 million.
Absolutely.
Hey, let's get up out of here, my boy. Follow me on everything at Pat the Designer, and follow both of us on everything at Locked On Bulls.
You can follow me at CEO Haize at CEO Haize. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go and check on Locked On NBA Big Board, where host Raphael Barlow and a bunch of NBA draft junkies and author of NBA Big Board newsletter Richard Stayman, Sam Ferris, and Leif Tullen are give fans an in-depth look at the NBA draft. Listen, they get way more in-depth than what we even do here. Mock draft, player rankings, and of course, Big Boards. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We out. We love you guys. Peace.
Peace.